welcome back to our channel. We are here to talk about week one of football. Football is back. Feels great. Actual game news to talk about instead of, typical extensions, cuts, injuries, and whatnot. Now it's actually the actual season's going on. So every single game counts. We're excited to see our teams back. Excited to see football back, period. So, Duran, what do you think about week one?
I loved it, man. It was a full weekend of football. It's even making it seem like this work week is going by quicker. Monday night just ended, it seemed like, and now we already got Thursday night coming up tomorrow. So It seems like life is getting back to normal.
Speaking of Thursday, let's talk about the Thursday night game. We got the Chiefs versus the Texans. Chiefs ended up taking that one 34-20. What was your overall thoughts about that game?
My overall thoughts on that game was Patrick Mahomes is definitely in his MVP form. Another thing that I kind of noticed was that the Houston defense didn't look that well, but I think I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass this week and see what they do the next couple weeks just because, they were playing the number one offense in the NFL. But other than that, I think the big story was Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire living up to his draft hype this year. So I know he ended the week one as having the most rushing yards of any running back at 139. And, I mean, I don't think he could ask for more than that. What'd you think about him?
Yeah, my take on this game is Clyde Edwards-Helaire is for real. I see him go early in fantasy football drafts, and I have him on one of my squads, and he's paid out. He actually helped me win that game. Tell you what, it's still unfortunate for Deshaun Watson. His line just looks terrible. Scrambling for his life. Let's see here. But one thing that excites me the most is David Johnson is back.
Yep.
You look great running the ball. You look great catching the ball. I'm excited to see this guy back. I'm too good. This game featured two great running backs and something I like to see. And, yeah.
What I liked about David Johnson, it just looked like that shiftiness was back with him. Yeah. He was even getting out there and breaking some tackles, which was kind of what he was like in that big 2018 year. Not saying he's all the way back. Let's see it for a couple more weeks, but it was definitely exciting to see him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, of course, he didn't offer anything in the passing game, which I think is something he'll develop in the next couple of weeks or towards the middle of the season. He's just getting his feet wet out there. He did have a touchdown and the opportunity for two more. He kept getting stuffed at the goal line. So those are two areas that I think he'll slowly work into as the season moves on, the passing game and at the goal line. The other running back in this game that had a little bit of news happening was Duke Johnson. He went down with the injury. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll definitely see David Johnson getting a full workload. That's just unfortunate, but football's back and injuries do happen. As for wide receivers going, we know that Deshaun Watson has a big group of number two wide receivers. We talked about this the past couple episodes, but he doesn't have the help that he had last year. I did see Brandon Cooks make a couple plays out there, mainly like in the middle of the field. But I think I was mostly surprised with Will Fuller. That seems to be his number one guy. I mean, he has to have some chemistry with him because they've been together the last couple years. But Fuller ended with 8 catches for 112 yards, and I think he'll be a big fantasy steal if he can keep this up and stay healthy throughout the year.
Yeah, he caught 8 out of the 10 targets, which is pretty solid. Like you were saying, it was cool to see Brandon Cooks on a new squad again. He ended with 2 catches for 20 yards. I just wanted to see him more, involved in the passing game. Same with Randall Cobb. Like you were saying, nothing but number 2 receivers for the squad. One guy that really disappointed me in the receiving style was Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills didn't really wow me. I was expecting to see a little bit. Always been a fan of him since he's been out of Oklahoma, but it didn't really wow me.
Yeah, I thought we'd see more of him, especially with Cobb out, but he didn't get a chance to shine. We do know Tyreek Hill made his plays. He got a touchdown in there too. He had a decent day. But the guy that surprised me the most out of that receiving core for Kansas City was Sammy Watkins. He came up with a lot of big plays, and it seemed like they were scheming to get him the ball a lot. I don't know if that was just because Kelsey and Tyreek Hill were getting all the attention, but Sammy Watkins came up big.
Yeah, he ended his stat line reads 7 receptions, 82 yards, and 1 touchdown. So we caught 7 out of 9 targets, which is really well. But again, we've seen this before. Week 1, Sammy Watkins. Hopefully we can see him stay consistent. I know there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, but I've always been a fan and supporter of Sammy Watkins. So I hope he stays consistent. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he kind of disappears in the next following weeks.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to now Sunday. Sundays are for football, baby, and that's something I like to see. Let's see. Let's start off with one of the early games. We'll go with Seahawks and Falcons. One of my main takes from this is if you want to talk MVP, talk about Russ Wilson, man. That guy looked dangerous.
Yeah, this was one of the games that I watched pretty much the whole game. Russell Wilson's my fantasy football quarterback in my main league, so I was keeping my eyes on him. And to me, of course, he looked great in MVP shape, and it seemed like the passing game is setting up the running game now. It didn't seem like they're so focused on the run to start off the game. I mean, Russell Wilson just started off really hot, 9 for 9, hitting 5 different receivers and ending the game with 322 yards, 4 touchdowns, 29 rushing yards, and no turnovers. So they got out to a pretty good lead by the end of the third quarter. And, the Falcons ended up racking up some garbage time stuff, but I think they did a pretty damn good job this week of showing their dominance.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. They weren't really designed runs for Russell Wilson, but showing his ability early to get out and scramble, not only to extend a play, but also just tuck the ball and run, which is something I like to see out of him early on instead of waiting to the fourth quarter like they usually do. He actually led the team in rushing, which is surprising, with only 29 yards.
Yeah.
3 rushes, 29 yards. And the next closest is Carlos Hyde for 7 carries for 23 yards. I've been told before, Carlos Hyde is a fantasy football killer. Nobody really drafts him, but he ended up taking a touchdown away from a lot of the Chris Carson fantasy football owners. So That's unfortunate to see, but it was nice to see Russ slinging it out there. Oh. Nice to see Russ slinging it out there. DK Metcalf led the way with 4 catches and 95 yards. He's still looking like a freak. Some drops, unfortunately, some easy drops, which wasn't always nice to see, but still promise for this young kid. Lockett's always consistent, and then Chris Carson catching 6 balls out of the backfield is always nice to see.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he had that many catches. But, DK Metcalf with the drops, that seems like it's been kind of plaguing him throughout his short career. But another guy that I was really paying attention to was Jamal Adams, to see exactly how they used him and how he fit in with that defense. And I really liked what I saw. I mean, it looked like he's been there for years. I don't know if you saw him, but a lot of the time he was blitzing off of the side, coming right off of the edge, and he's got a lot of hits on Matt Ryan, stopped Todd Gurley in the backfield a couple times, and I just like seeing him at that line of scrimmage and showing his dominance there.
Yeah, I definitely like to see him.
Your mic went out.
Jamal Adams, very excited to see him play, man. He's more athletic Cam Chancellor. He was an enforcer there. He was, making his presence known, which is really nice. But another guy I like to see on this squad that is new. is third leg Greg. I've always been a fan of him coming out of Miami. Uh, he's a wily veteran. I listen to his podcast, TE1, which is, always nice to hear, where he interviews, old tight ends and new tight ends too, like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and all that. But he got a couple of catches. Targeted 4 times, got 24 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yep.
So always consistent player, something I like to see.
They actually got a nice stable of tight ends there that I saw they rotated them all in. Disley, and who's the third guy? Do you know who he is?
Holstead?
Yeah, exactly. And all 3 of those guys played. I saw them get targeted. But yeah, I think this is just a dominating performance by Seattle. I mean, like I said, Falcons got a lot of garbage time. At the beginning of the 4th quarter, it was 31-12. So the game was kind of out of hand, and then the box score kind of shows something different. But even Riley Ridley, he ended up with 130 yards for 2 touchdowns. I think he played – Calvin Ridley, sorry about that. He ended the game with 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he played great, but in the first half, he only had 66 yards, no touchdowns. So it just showed how they kind of piled on to that garbage time stat line. But the top dog there, still Julio Jones, 9 catches, 157 yards, and he played pretty good throughout the whole game. The other new guy for the Falcons was Todd Gurley. This was one thing that I was not very impressed with. I went back and watched his tape just this morning, and he looked a little slow out there, man. He was not coming off the ball like we remember seeing him for the Rams a couple years ago. His change of direction just didn't seem to get there. I don't know if he has to warm up to, start off this year, but I just thought I wasn't too impressed with him.
We're going against we're going to go on to the New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. 2 quarterbacks in the same draft, I believe, with Sam Darnold and Josh Allen. Wasn't really impressed by Sam Darnold. Never really was coming out of USC. It's not because I'm not a big fan of USC, but Sam Darnold, man, just never really was impressive to me. Kind of boring. Josh Allen, on the other hand, needs to work on his accuracy a little bit more. Didn't really see a whole bunch of I don't know. I just didn't see a whole lot that I like to see out of him. Maybe, he's got to take care of that ball. He definitely does. He lost a crucial fumble, which could have helped him out.
This was one of the games that I didn't really watch that closely, so I can't really talk on Josh Allen or Sam Darnold's accuracy or anything like that. But I'll stick up for Sam Darnold a little bit and just say that I don't think he has much help around him at all. Maybe one of the worst supporting cast around him, especially with Le'Veon Bell going out. He got the hamstring injury, which I actually thought was pretty funny because that was the issue that was happening earlier in camp when Adam Gase called him out and said that he was having some hamstring issues. And then Le'Veon Bell went on Twitter and said, nope, my hamstring's just fine. And then, of course, this game, he pulls his hamstring. So Sam Darnold, poor guy. This is just one game that I couldn't really pull myself to watch. There are too many other good games on. But then again, we have Josh Allen. He flashes from time to time. 312 yards passing, 57 rushing yards, 3 total touchdowns. I think that stat line will come back to earth in the next couple weeks or even next week. He's just an up and down type of guy. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it looks like Frank Gore was leading the way for the Jets offense as far as rushing. He had 6 carries for 24 yards.
Yep.
And he'll get the nod for next week against San Francisco, which is his former team that drafted him in 2005. And he's still in the league, so I'm excited to see.
He won't go away.
He won't go away. I hope he gets to play with his son.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like you were saying, it wasn't really too wild about this game because early reports show that the Jets are going to be picking early in next year's draft along with who they say is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And let's move to that. Jacksonville Jaguars versus Indianapolis Colts. I'll tell you what, 19 for 20 for Gardner Minshew.
Mm-hmm.
Only put up 173 yards, but he put up 3 touchdowns. It's pretty impressive for only having 1 incompletion in the whole game.
Yeah, I've never really been a Minshew guy or jumped on the wagon, but he kind of impressed me in this game. The only 1 incompletion, no turnovers, 3 touchdowns. He ended up hitting 10 different receivers. So that just shows he wasn't really fixated on one guy. He was just slinging it. And then it goes all the way down to the 4th quarter where he actually leads the drive to ultimately win the game. So I was pretty impressed with him. Another guy that I love seeing getting involved was Laviska Shenault.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy, he lined up everywhere, running back, slot, wide receiver. I think they had him in some return game stuff, but he was the only rookie wide receiver to get a touchdown this week. So Laviska Shenault, man, I could even see that the Colts defense were really focusing on him, and they even used him a little bit as a decoy, motioning him from one side to the other. He set up another touchdown play just by going in motion, which pretty impressive for a younger guy coming out. His strength was pretty impressive too. They tried to lay a hat on him a couple times, and he ended up running him over. So I like seeing that.
Yeah, a guy that's been on my radar. Shout out to our boy Zach Pinn. He put this guy, pretty much on the table, saying, "Watch this guy. Look out for this guy." Definitely being used as a swift army knife, which I did like to see, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Few rookies that stood out. Definitely, you got Laviska Shenault, like you were just talking about, and then you got James Robinson from a small school, Illinois State, getting the start. They lost a few running backs, 1 to COVID and 2 to cut with Leonard Fournette. And then that defense, you got C.J. Anderson, getting in there, making some PBUs.
Henderson.
Yeah, Henderson. Sorry. Anderson. Sorry about that.
No
but, the Rooks definitely making their name. They're not going away. Heard some reporters saying that Gardner Minshew is going to be like their Fitzpatrick as far as they're going to win you a few games, but just enough to get you out of the top 10, which is, I don't know if they're trying to tank for Trevor, but, watching Gardner Minshew in that game, pretty exciting to see. I'm not going to, shave my hair, my beard into a mustache and wear my jorts, but, man, I'm going to watch this guy. This guy's pretty exciting to see. It's pretty entertaining. As far as the Colts go, I mean, I don't know about you, but, man, Phillip Rivers' arms just look shot, man.
He was floating a lot of balls. That's the first note I have on here. Three floating interceptions. Each one of his interceptions were just a bad floating ball. But he only got credited for 2 because 1 got called back. But this guy just had no zip on the ball.
That defense, too, it just wasn't really exciting. I was hoping maybe to get a little bit more pressure, but, it wasn't really wow. I just wasn't, pretty excited about this. One guy I did like to see getting involved out there was Paris Campbell, a young kid out of Ohio State, still learning the receiver position. And, he ended the day with 6 catches for 71 yards, which was pretty exciting.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Marlon Mack did go down with a torn Achilles. Hoping for a quick recovery. Looks like it's time for Nyheim Hines and Taylor to step up. As far as running backs go, I know a lot of fantasy football owners who drafted Marlon Mack are pretty pissed off. And, I drafted Taylor pretty early, so I know a lot of people are asking me for trades.
There you go. I was actually pretty impressed with running backs on both sides of the ball. James Robinson for the Jags, this was my first time ever seeing him play, so I was pretty impressed. He was able to break a lot of tackles, and he showed off his power. And then towards the end of the game, he showed off that hurdle, which was pretty damn impressive. He looked like a stud out there, so I could see why they moved on from Leonard Fournette. We'll see if he can keep this stuff up. And then the other guy who impressed me was Nyheim Hines. And I was never really a Nyheim Hines fan, but he ended up going off this game. And I even think it was before the Marlon Mack injury. He had a touchdown in there. but he just looked more powerful out there. I don't know if he got in the gym and worked out a little bit, but his body type just seemed a little bit different. They used him at the goal line, which I never thought he'd be a goal line back. And, of course, in the passing game, he ended up scoring on the ground and in the air. Naheem Hines was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's try to move on a little bit faster through these next games. Let's see here. You got Chicago versus the Lions. Let's hear a few takes.
Yeah, so the Bears beat the Lions 27-23, and to me so we know Allen Robinson, he was not happy. Came out, they win, and he came out this week, and he just wasn't happy with the way the game goes, and that I think has to do a lot with his quarterback. I'm just never really impressed with Trubisky. He played like crap until the fourth quarter. But the fourth quarter, he ended up coming out going 11 for 14 in the fourth quarter. But then he had a huge fumble that, could have lost in the game late in the game. So that, I don't know. I just think Allen Robinson's not that happy there. I mean, he runs great routes. He always continues to get open. But Trubisky he throws a lot of tight window passes that end up being incompletions. And it's frustrating to watch.
Yeah, definitely frustrating to watch. Not as frustrating as you being a rookie and dropping the game-winning touchdown like Swift did. That's unfortunate. I'm pretty sure he's a young kid. He'll still learn. He's definitely learning behind AP, which is a good thing. One young guy that really impressed me, which I know he's still learning. I know he's going to grow into his own, but is TJ Hawkinson, the tight end out of Iowa. It's his second year. And he ended the day with 5 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Been a fan of this guy. Anybody coming out of Iowa is always, super strong player. I mean, it goes to show in the, Noah Fant in Denver, but we'll go about that, later. I don't know if you saw this, but one of the highlights was Jalen Johnson getting trucked by Marvin Jones Jr. Did you see that?
Yep, I saw that.
God. Yeah. Other than that, though, I thought that Jalen Johnson actually had a solid day.
Mm-hmm.
Still learning. It's a whole different game speed. I think he's ended up going to be a solid corner in the future to come, though.
Yeah, 2 veterans that I really liked watching in this game. Number one, I just got to give him his props. Cordell Patterson. He shines in all phases of the game, from the kick return, catching passes, playing running back. He was doing it all. He's a powerful guy. And then, of course, one guy that we just can't seem to ever get rid of, and that's Adrian Peterson. He just proves that he belongs in the NFL, and he might even take over this backfield before you know it, especially with the rookie having his whoa moment at the end of the game. But AP got a lot of work, and especially between the tackles, 14 carries, 93 yards at his age. It's just he doesn't stop. So the second half was his, and unfortunately, the rookie had that big drop to lose them the game.
All right, let's go on to a division rivalry going down right here. We got the Green Bay Packers versus Minnesota Vikings. Green Bay ended up taking this 43-34. All I got to say is Aaron Rodgers is not done.
Not done at all.
Amazing. I don't know if it's because they drafted a rookie in the first round that lit a fire underneath his ass, but any kind of motivation he needs was definitely that. And he looked like an MVP for him. He looked like old school Aaron Rodgers, something I'm excited to see. Been a fan of him, California kid. Always great to see. And of course, man, Devontae Adams is just still Devontae Adams. He's just a beast.
Yep.
I really see.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he lit it up. Maybe it is the rookie lighting a fire under his ass, but I feel like something changed a little bit in this offense as well. Sort of like Seattle, I mentioned. They were really focused more on using their quarterback to make plays. And I feel like the last 2 years with Seattle and the Packers, they've been really focused on getting this run game started. Aaron Rodgers is just taken over. 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's where the ball belongs, in his hands. So, Minnesota's a pretty solid defense. I know that they were missing a lot of guys, but Aaron Rodgers is still impressive, but Devontae Adams, another guy, his number one target. Liked everything that I saw from him except for two things. Number one is his strength and breaking tackles. I kept watching him every catch. He had 14 catches. I don't know if he broke one tackle doing that, but as long as you could run routes like he does and consistently get open, he will have a job in being an elite wide receiver.
Yeah, definitely. Then a few other receivers I like to highlight is MVS.
Yep.
Marquez Scatling, and Alan Lazard.
Yep.
Both have a touchdowns. Solid targets for Aaron Rodgers. It seemed like Aaron Rodgers was actually targeting MVS a little bit more.
MVS could have had two more huge plays too, but he has the drops, man.
He does. It's really unfortunate. But so one thing I was actually surprised is that they didn't really utilize A.J. Dillon as much as I thought they would. He was a highly drafted rookie.
Yep.
But, they keep on feeding Aaron Jones, which is, I'm not mad at. But,
and Williams.
Aaron Williams. But
yep.
I'm not mad at. I just thought that I'd see Dillon a little bit more. He ended the day with 2 carries for 14 yards.
I didn't even see those 2 carries.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings really quick.
Yeah, they did not come out hot. I don't know what the time of possession was in the first half, but it had to be horrible. They only had 5 completions in the first half, and by that time the score was already getting a little bit out of hand. But Thielen, he ended up getting 2 meaningless touchdowns in the second half. He ended the game with 110 yards, but it was just too late. On top of that, Dalvin Cook only had 12 carries. 2 of those he cashed in for touchdowns that were pretty close to the goal line. But, yeah, I don't think that they could really hold on to the ball. Maybe it was third downs. But, yeah, they just couldn't sustain drives and stay on the field and put up points.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the rookie they drafted too, Justin Jefferson didn't really get involved. Looks like BC Johnson got a little bit more, targets than him. Again, maybe just learning curve, maybe just the week 1 jitters, being without preseason, especially with all these little soft tissue injuries. Maybe we'll see week 2 kind of, people getting a wake up call here.
Yep. One more guy that I have to shout out in this game who played great, Jair Alexander, coming up with a big interception and a huge safety. He had a safety that, I think really turned the game around. And during both of those plays, he was lined up on Alan Thielen. And that blitz that he did when they had him backed up was risky as hell. He just caught – you never expect a safety or a corner to blitz when they're supposed to be covering Adam Thielen, and he got to Kirk Cousins really quick, and that changed the game. Jair Alexander.
Yeah, he's always been your guy, man. So that was pretty exciting to see. He pretty much he pickpocketed Alan Thielen for that interception right here and bullied him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to you got Miami Dolphins versus New England. New England wins this game 21-11. It seems like Josh McDaniels has opened up his playbook that he had for Tebow because he utilizes Cam Newton's, legs. Made him run a little bit more. He had 15 carries for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is pretty exciting to see. Kind of like the old school Cam, something that he's used to, but I'm a little bit worried. Maybe he'll run him into the ground, especially having that surgery. You see him lowering the shoulder, trying to chuck some guys instead of, taking – trying to save yourself in the future.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, when the Patriots signed Cam Newton, I saw a lot of things about they need to cut back on his running because he's hurt, but that's Cam's strength. You have to use it, and he's only on a 1-year deal. I know they would like to have him around for longer, but you're on a 1-year deal. I'm running Cam. I don't know about into the ground 15 attempts a game, but I'm definitely giving him his share every week and, using him to his strength. His passing isn't always the most accurate, so keep him on the ground. If you guys are winning and keeping it close, letting that defense play, then Cam will be getting his touches. In this game, he had 4 runs over 10 yards. He had 8 rushing first downs. So Tom Brady didn't do that very often, so that's something that the Patriots are just getting used to, taking advantage. And I did not even think of the Tebow point of view in that. But, yeah, he might be dusting off the old playbook, and Cam can run it 10 times better, in my opinion.
Yeah, this game didn't really wow me much. I was excited to see Cam Newton back, but other than that, just going against Miami, I was hoping to see a little bit more oomph out of that defense, being a bunch of young guys, but it looks like they, Belichick being Belichick, taking advantage of those young guys and their mistakes. Yep. But yeah, the old guy making 3 mistakes, throwing 3 interceptions with Ryan Fitzpatrick, ending the day with 20 completions at 30 for 191 yards. Yeah, man, wasn't really impressed by Miami Dolphins. I know they're a fairly young team. They're still learning to mesh well, so we'll definitely see how they do in the future. But other than that, this game didn't really wow me. I couldn't really pinpoint anybody that really got me, excited. Like, hey, let me watch this guy a little bit more. Just kind of boring game.
I feel you. It was pretty low scoring. I mean, I can't wait to see Tua, so I probably won't watch much Miami unless they're playing someone that really interests me. But Ryan Fitzpatrick doing what he does, 3 picks. Next week he'll have 3 touchdowns. So he's so up and down. Of course, you got to point out Stephon Gilmore gets an interception. That's just what he does. Former Defensive Player of the Year. And I think the biggest story in this whole game was about Cam getting his chain snatched at the very end. So that just shows you how good the game was when you talk more about what happens at the end.
So you go to a kind of a boring game to a game that excited me, that wowed me. It's a Washington football team versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Washington walks away with this 27-17. And all I can say is, man, that defensive line is nasty. It might be the best one in the league so far right now. They ended the game with 8 sacks. That can't really feel good for Carson Wentz, picking himself off the ground or having his offensive line go down there and pick him up. Definitely not good for someone who's coming off an injury. So,
this was just this was a game that I really paid attention to. I had a couple guys playing for the Eagles, and then, of course, I wanted to see Chase Young. So, Washington was down 17-0 in the second quarter. It was actually towards the end of the second quarter. They didn't really turn it on until the second half. I think they got 1 touchdown at the end of the second quarter. But Haskins, he's still not one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, but I think he played better today or this week than I saw him all of last year. So I heard that he delivered a speech because at halftime because Coach Ron Rivera was actually getting an IV or something like that because he was feeling a little bit drowsy during the game. So he's stepping up as a leader. I do want to see his completion percentage to go over 50%, but I think he played pretty decent in this game. He played better than Carson Wentz, which Carson Wentz he didn't have much help at all. I mean, you mentioned the 8 sacks. He had 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions. And both of his interceptions, his throw was a little bit late, and he got undercut on those. I rewatched them back, and they just weren't that good of decisions. I think he was really just trying to win the game and put the whole team on his shoulders. But I actually thought he got hurt twice out of those 8 sacks. He kind of laid on the ground there on 2 of them, and I was like, oof, please get up. Please just finish the game. And just the right side of his offensive line is decimated. Both of the starters were out. I think they're getting 1 back this week. I'm not sure, but he just tried to take advantage of using both of the tight ends. So I think the best tight end duo in the NFL. I mean, Dallas Goedert is slowly but surely taking over this number 1 spot, and I think Ertz is feeling it. We heard him talking about he's not quite sure if the team wants him back for next year or when his contract is up, and he's feeling a little unwanted. But Goddard's the man. I think he has a little bit better yards after the catch than Ertz does. And we even saw Ertz drop a crucial pass in that game too. So might be a little bit sooner than later that he takes over.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I think Goddard's a little bit more well-rounded, maybe a little bit better blocker. But yeah, Ertz was targeted 7 times, and he only caught 3.
Yep.
One of them was for a touchdown, but compared to Dallas Goddard targeted 9 times, caught 8 for 101 yards. And
yeah, he was making the most of those, man. And, Deshaun Jackson was there, but all the other receivers kind of seemed like they were a little bit quiet. I know Jalen Rager made a really nice deep play with a catch over the shoulder. That was really early in the game. But later, as the game went on, they just couldn't get anything over the top, and they tried again and again and again. So, yeah, the Philly seems like they got another year where they're dealing with some injuries, but you can't count them out with that great defensive line, and we'll see if they pick it up through the year. I do want to mention, though, Chase Young definitely is legit. He was PFF's highest-rated first-round player in the draft, so I was watching him close. He is lining up on that right side and kind of abusing Jason Peters, who we do know is 38 years old. He's signed to play guard, got kicked out to tackle because of more injuries, but he was getting worked. And I think Chase Young had 2 sacks. They give him credit for 1.5. And he had 2 forced fumbles, but Ertz's arm was moving forward, and they called that back. So this guy, he's starting off hot, and I think he's going to continue with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty excited to see Young, transition to one of the better guys, especially he has a great guy on the other side with Ryan Kerrigan still doing it.
Yep, two more sacks this week for Kerrigan.
Exactly. Slowly having a Hall of Fame career, I think.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders and the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders take a run away with this one, 34-30. Was actually closer than I thought. I thought the Raiders were actually going to pretty much take this. I actually picked them to win 28-14. Yeah, a little bit closer. The defense looked a little bit lackluster. Of course, it's hard to go, go up against the best running back in the league, and Christian McCaffrey. But something that I did like is I liked how Derek Carr threw the ball around. He targeted a few different receivers with Ruggs leading the way with 3 catches, 55 yards. Then you got, Jacobs, Waller, even Nelson Aguilar got a catch for a touchdown, which is pretty exciting to see. I totally forgot he was on the squad. And then then Josh Jacobs is just looking like, the main guy. Growing into his own. Excited to see him play. End of the day with 25 carries for 93 yards and 3 touchdowns. So,
yikes!
What a day! Have a day, Josh Jacobs. So, I mean, if I was given a game ball, I definitely would give it to this young cat.
Yeah.
First running back out of last year's draft. And he's proven it. It's definitely running away with this one. So something that Gruden likes. Gruden likes to run the ball a lot more, and they got their running back for sure in Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, he's definitely the best player on their offense. I mean, he's very shifty. He showed power. He shows it all. So this is just a tip of the iceberg for this guy. Like you said, the 3 touchdowns, just starting off the season right. What I did notice, too, is the Panthers' defense is pretty bad. I know that they moved some guys around. They let some guys go, but was not impressed with it at all. I did like seeing Derek Carr throw the ball down the field. That's been a big criticism of his is he doesn't get the ball down the field, low depth of target. But 2 of the passes that I saw to him, one was a big throw to Ruggs down the field, which I was like, okay, Derek Carr, you're going. And then that touchdown to Aguilar wasn't bad. Those are the 2 big throws where I just saw Derek Carr kind of opening up. Think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder this year, so hopefully he takes advantage of that. Henry Ruggs should have had that touchdown on that big throw, but he got tackled at the 1-yard line, and later on in the game ended up getting hurt. I did not realize that he led the team in receiving yards, though. So, the short time he was, or the half of the game that he was on the field, he did pretty well. I liked what I saw, and seemed like the chemistry with Carr was there. You got anything on the Panthers offense?
Before I go to the Panthers,
Yeah.
I mean, I like Carr. I like that. He's playing, like he said, he was playing with the chip on his shoulder. A lot of people were kind of doubting him. Even myself said, man, he's kind of fearful. He doesn't really want to throw the ball deep, and he's shown he is. I liked him out of the draft. He was always an accurate player. Team player, seems to be motivated. Maybe this is his year. He comes back into his MVP form like he was looking like before he hurt his back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty excited to see that. But, yeah, when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, I've always been a fan of Teddy Bridgewater as far as, like, wanting to root for the guy. I mean, the guy's been banged up. I mean, going back to seeing this guy get knocked out, when he was a quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings and coming back. He's on a new squad this year. He's leading Matt Rule's Carolina Panthers. At the end of the day with 34 attempts for 22 catches, 269 yards, and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, of course, is up in this offense with 23 carries and 97 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Robbie Anderson, I didn't realize he had 6 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown. I know he had a touchdown, but I didn't realize that he had 114 receiving yards. That was pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, he had one play that was about 75 yards. So that's where most of it came from. But I did watch a lot of this game as well. Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't attempt anything deep until the fourth quarter, which I was kind of impressed when you just said his total yardage for the game. But I have written down right here that his deepest pass attempted was 25 yards down the field, and that was to that Robbie Anderson touchdown, and that was a touchdown all because of blown coverage. It was just the defenders. One of the defenders reached out and tried to stop him. I think it was Arnett, got a flag thrown on him. Robbie Anderson got behind him, and it was an easy touchdown. But Teddy Bridgewater, they need to unleash him a little bit more and maybe get him throwing down the field a little bit. But we did see him at the Saints doing the same thing. So maybe they're just fitting it to his style. But Christian McCaffrey, he tried to match with Jacobs. He just wasn't enough, which, still had a great day, almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Jacobs had the 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's just unfortunate for Christian McCaffrey. He's so good, especially in the red zone. He just breaks tackles, maintains his balance at all times, and always fun to watch. But what really bothered me the most about this offense was they actually had a chance to win it late, and they had a 4th and 1. And in that 4th and 1, who would you give the ball to? I say Christian McCaffrey, the best player on your entire team. But instead, they give it to the fullback, and the fullback couldn't get 1 yard. He just got stuffed at the line. And, maybe just a young play caller in the NFL, but Matt Rule, you got to give Christian McCaffrey the ball in that situation. You just got to do it and, leave it up to him to win the game for you guys.
Yeah, another thing that I'd like to see a little bit more is also maybe utilize DJ Moore a little bit. I mean, I think he was only targeted about 4 times for 54 yards. But
did Robbie Anderson lead the team in targets?
Yes, he did.
Where was Curtis Samuel?
Curtis Samuel, let's see here. Curtis Samuel ended the day with 5 for 38.
Okay.
Targeted 8 times.
Okay. Yep, that's not bad. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I had on that game.
All right. A game that was an absolute blowout, but actually I like to see the, quarterback, move a little bit, kind of progress more. It was the Baltimore Ravens versus Cleveland Browns. Baltimore Ravens just put a spanking on them, 38-6. Lamar Jackson definitely looking like the MVP. His touch on his passes looks so much better. Super excited to see. I know he's, kind of saying like, man, he's like a running back. He can run. All he can do is run the ball. But man, he's looking like, a true quarterback as far as passing. And something excited to see the growth and the progress in this young guy. See here. And then you got the other guy, Baker Mayfield, end of the day with 21 completions out of 39, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, but also 1 interception.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ravens really coasted in this one, 38-6. I mean, Lamar, he's right back in his MVP form. Like you said, his passes to the outside and his deep passes just seem to be getting better and better each year. So he put up 274 passing yards, 45 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. So, that's traditional quarterback numbers right there. It's not all rushing. It's not loaded to one side. It's pretty damn good. I like what I see there. 2 things about his receivers that I notice. Mark Andrews, his hands are elite. He has some of the best hands in the NFL, especially at the tight end position, man. He catches everything. He has sticky hands. So that was nice to see. And then another thing that I noticed, Marquise Brown, his game is adapting. I think it's because he's coming off of that foot injury and it's all healed up, but he just seems a little bit more shiftiness in the stuff that I saw from him in college. So a little more shiftiness, not just doing those 9 routes and trying to get behind. He's actually doing some comebacks, and if he adds stuff like that to his game, they're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, pretty excited to see. Something that wasn't exciting to see was that new Browns offense. I know they're new team. Kevin Stefanski is coming in there, implementing a new game plan. But this guy comes from the Shanahan Kubiak scheme, so I was expecting to see a little bit more running. Didn't see a whole lot of that. Let's see, you got Kareem Hunt with 13 carries for 72. Then you had Nick Chubb for 10 carries for 60 yards.
Yep.
As far as receiving goes, leading the team in targets was actually OBJ, and he only caught 3 for 22. Njoku caught 3 for 50 and a touchdown, and then I'm pretty sure he just got injured as well.
What about Landry? I thought he would have led the team.
Landry did ended up leading them with 5 catches for 61 yards.
Okay.
He was targeted 6 times, but 0 touchdowns.
Yep.
I thought I'd see a little bit more as far as I know this defense is a tough defense to go against, but I actually thought I would see a little bit more progress out of this offense. This offense is implementing a new scheme, but I mean this team's been together for a year now, and I figured to see a little bit more meshing point out of these guys.
Yeah, this is Baker Mayfield's 4th offensive coordinator in his short time there, but the notes that I have down for the Browns aren't really that complimentative. It's Bradley Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They are the best duo of running backs in the NFL. I wrote that. They both made great plays. Running between the tackles is showing off their skills. It kind of seems like they might be leaning more towards Hunt. I don't know if it's the new coaching staff, but he did just get the extension. You see him more of a 50-50, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up taking a little bit more of the carries towards the end of the year or even the middle. Bad stuff about OBJ. First thing I saw from him was him complaining on the sidelines a little bit early, and we know he's showing his passion, but then he comes back on the field. He has a big drop that was right in his hands. I think they had him down for 2 drops, but I only saw that one big one. And then later on in the game, the 3rd quarter, he ends up going back into the locker room to get an IV. And it's like when your team's counting on you and you're out and you're playing a game, you have to be there at all times. You have to be reliable. And OBJ I don't think he started this year off right. And I was actually pretty high on him because I think he's a great player. And if I would have had the chance to draft him this year, I would have taken him. But, I know Baker didn't look that great, but OBJ just got to hold your composure and not make the headlines about you and things like that. But Baker, he continued to struggle. He had one really bad interception, but the pocket was just collapsing around him. Jedrick Willis ended up getting hurt, leaving the game, and I think this next game is a turning point already, week 2 for them. They got the Bengals next. If they don't beat the Bengals, this team is going to fall off very hard. I just don't think that they have the right guys on the team to kind of pull them back up and get their spirits back. So they better win this next game because I think it's kind of their season, and it's it's going to build their confidence from here on out.
Yeah, that's actually a good transition because next we have the Bengals versus the Chargers.
Yep.
Chargers ended up taking this one 16-13. Yeah, let's talk about the Cincy. See, Joe Burrow went 23 for 36, 193 yards, one interception, no touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown, but he didn't have that. He didn't have any passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Still a young guy. Getting used to the speed of the NFL. But one thing that impressed me is that AJ Green still got it, man.
Yeah.
Definitely being utilized a lot.
Yeah.
Was targeted 9 times, caught 5 for 51 yards. I think they're still kind of getting used to each other's timings. And then, hopefully we'll see a little bit more.
Yeah, AJ Green, I noticed he was really taking advantage of the short routes, and I love to see that because he had the lower leg injury last year. So looks like he's 100%. He actually should have had 3 touchdowns in this game. The first one, Burrow just overthrew him. It was a bad throw, a rookie throw, but AJ Green had his man beat by 5 yards. The second one was just a great play by Casey Hayward, a break up in the end zone. And then, of course, that last one was the PI in the end zone where A.J. Green pushed off a little bit. So he had a chance to have a big week. I was actually looking to maybe trade for him because I guarantee a lot of A.J. Green owners did not watch that game. And they look at the stat line and be like, oh, yeah, he did okay, but A.J. Green should have went off.
Yeah.
The things that I have on Burrow, I think he looked pretty good for his first game. He did make those rookie mistakes, of course, the missed pass, but the bad one was that shovel pass. It was like, what are you doing? The game was on the line. You just can't do that stuff. It was kind of a Brett Favre-esque type of play, but he threw it. It got intercepted, and they should have lost the game right there. But he did have some nice rushes, of course, the touchdown, but they had they had a few designed runs for him, which, we saw him at LSU. He used his legs a lot, and they're taking advantage of that. As we saw, it came down to that last drive. They probably should have won this game if it wasn't for that push off, but the biggest thing was the damn kicker missed the field goal at the very end, faked an injury, went down and grabbed his leg, did whatever he did. But it's sad because Joe Burrow deserved to get his first career win as a quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. To touch on the Chargers really quick.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor ended the day with went 16 for 30, 208 yards, no touchdowns with no interceptions. Eckler seemed to kind of lead this whole offense with 19 carries for 84 yards. But also the young guy, Kelly, he stepped up to the plate with 12 carries and 60 yards and a touchdown. Looks like they're implementing more of a running game, which is fine by me. Keenan Allen seemed to, not in his best day. Only had 4 catches for 37 yards, though he was targeted 8 times. Maybe they need to, get this, whole game out of their system. We'll see in the future. But let's move on a little bit to.
Hold on. I have a little bit about Tyrod Taylor when I watched this one. I think that this is just kind of going to be their offense. I don't think Tyrod Taylor looked good at all. Of course, he had the no touchdowns, but he was really conservative until the very end when he needed to kind of step it up and try to win the game. But he had a lot of inaccurate throws and overthrows, and he had 2 pretty good throws, and those were to Mike Williams. And each one of those throws, he led Mike Williams right into the safety. I think it was Von Bell. But Mike Williams ended up getting blown up twice because of the inaccuracy of Tyrod Taylor. But Mike Williams came back. His catch radius is unbelievable, and he bailed out Tyrod Taylor a couple times. But, man, those safety hits, especially on his injured shoulder already, did not look good. So, Tyrod Taylor, I just didn't like his game this week.
No, definitely not. All right, let's go to the New Orleans Saints versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
New Orleans Saints take this game 34-23. God, I gotta say, man, Drew Brees' arms he just looks dead. It looks like how he did towards the end of every season, man. It's not there. Uh, kind of lackluster. 18 for 30, 160, 2 touchdowns. And on the other side, you got Tom Brady, 23 for 36, 239, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. And one of those was a pick six to Janoris Jenkins.
Yeah, I did hear a lot of people talking about the arms of the quarterbacks, and quite on, I didn't really see that much. I thought the one thing I did see with the Bucks is I thought Brady would be a little bit more in sync with his players. You know, he's notorious for these off-season workouts and working with his wide receivers. He did have 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions, which they weren't good throws. One of them was the overthrow to Mike Evans, and then another one was just undercut by Jackrabbit Jenkins.
Yeah.
And they were just 2 bad throws. And New Orleans ended up getting 3 turnovers for them and scored all 3 times. So I think that was the difference of the game. Both of the defenses looked pretty good. As for Breeze, I thought he was pretty much on point. He does throw a lot of short passes, but I also saw him land a couple deep passes in there too. So I didn't really have any problems with that. I think the biggest problem with the Saints was their running game. They just couldn't get it going. Who was it? Kamara, 16 yards on 12 carries. And, you know, he did a great job in the passing game. It really wasn't it was a lot of screens. He took advantage of a lot of screens in this game, but I think the Saints are definitely top contenders in the NFC. You know, Brees just got to keep doing what he does. I'm never a Taysom Hill fan. I just hate when they put him on the field and take Brees off. But, man, he actually did something this week, and I kind of like the plays that he was on the field for. And, yeah, if this is what they think they need to do to get those explosion plays, then go ahead and do it. But, yeah, those are my takeaways.
Yeah, my takeaway is that Smith was actually wasn't as good as a rookie Wirfs for Tampa Bay. He was getting kind of bullied a little bit, His guy kept on creating pressures. He gave up 3 sacks. Something not really impressed by. I thought this game was going to be a little bit more competitive, but it kind of looked like the Saints just kind of bullied their way into where they need to go.
The Saints have, they've been a squad with the same coach, same quarterback, same group of guys for a long time. And, Bruce Arians hasn't been there the longest. What is his second year? And maybe his third. But Tom Brady's new. It's just going to take these guys a second to kind of mesh and get in together. 2 notes I have on one wide receiver from each side. Mike Evans completely shut down. I mean, Lattimore, he's a shutdown corner. We talked about him earlier in the year. PFF did not have him ranked very well in their books, but I remember saying he's still a shutdown corner. He manned up on Mike Evans. He had 0 catches into the 4th quarter, and then he got a garbage time touchdown that didn't even matter. I think it was like a 5-yard touchdown. And then the other note on the wide receiver, Michael Thomas did not look good this game. I was watching him very closely, and even before his injury, he just wasn't getting targeted very much. He ended up leaving in the 4th quarter, so his stats are pretty much his stats. That was like a end-of-the-game garbage time play that he got hurt on. But he didn't really produce at all. I don't know if he was a little bit injured before the game or what it was, but I hope he bounces back because I love seeing Michael Thomas out there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers, which is Arizona Cardinals.
Yep.
Arizona Cardinals unfortunately took this one 24-20. It was hard for me to watch as a 49ers fan. Definitely seeing Jimmy just a little bit uncomfortable there. Just wasn't as decisive as I liked him to be. Overthrowing a lot of receivers. Throwing a little bit late, hitting on the ball a little bit too much, and the short pass to Kittle where he set him up, get pretty much just the hospital ball where Buda Baker just, took out his knee, ended up with a knee sprain.
Yeah.
Definitely was unfortunate. 49ers walked away with a few injuries with George Kittle with a knee sprain. Richard Sherman is now on IR with a calf strain.
Oh, yep.
And then you also have Keelan Witherspoon in concussion protocol, and then the cornerback that's supposed to take over on the other side, and Verrett still has a lingering injury with the hamstring. So we'll see. They do have some help coming back with Ayuk and Ben Garland. I know that the Arizona Cardinals defense was getting a lot of pressure inside, pushing with Dan Brunskill. Grosseau was called up late from the practice squad, ended up held in his zone. But one thing I got to take away from this is that, Kyler Murray, is definitely making his case for the MVP. He looked very comfortable in that offense, and he enjoyed his new toy in DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins ended the end of the day with 14 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown.
Are you sure he had the touchdown?
No touchdowns and no touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, he got tackled at the 1 yard line. He should have had or the 1 inch line. He was really close on that. But Jimmy G, he was off target a couple times. I kind of think I did see some overthrows in it, but under 50% completion. The big one, I know the Kittle one sucked because of the injury, but the big one that I saw was it was the underthrow in the end zone to Kendrick Bourne. I think that could have been the game winner. So that was the main one that I saw. That was, you just got to make that throw to win the game. But as far as the Cardinals go, Cardinals and Niners last year, the Niners were the best NFC team in the league. The Cardinals were not, and this was a close game, each game last year. So these guys just know how to play each other. Of course, I was impressed with Kyler Murray, 100 rushing yards that ended up getting knocked down to 91 because he kneeled from shotgun twice, which is pretty weird. But, he had that game-winning drive. He looked quick when he was rushing the ball. He had the baseball slide. He'd get out of bounds. He took no hits. So that's what I love the most. I do have a note here. I don't know his name, number 41 for the Niners. He was getting abused by Hopkins, which
Emmanuel Mosley.
He's not the only guy that's happened to. So, he shouldn't feel too bad. But it seemed like every catch that Hopkins was getting, it was over Mosley. So, yeah, I did see that. What I liked the most about the Niners offense was Mostert in the receiving game. I did not see much of that, expect much of that from him this year. He started off hot. I think it was like a 75-yard touchdown right off the bat. And I think he should have scored 2 more touchdowns right at the goal line, but he couldn't quite get those ones in. Another thing I noticed about a rookie from Arizona was their first-round pick, Isaiah Simmons, actually had the worst first-round grade by PFF of the week. So I think Shanahan was kind of targeting him a little bit and making him prove himself in the NFL.
Yeah, that's something that I saw early. Right at the back, he got abused by George Kittle, and he was called early for that horse collar. And then Mostert hit him with that Texas route.
Yep.
And, shook him. Then he kind of learned that, he's got to get up to the speed on the NFL speed. But he's a good rookie. I wouldn't expect nothing, less of that game. I mean, that was probably his worst game that he's ever going to have. And I expect him to bounce back into a great. But something I'm excited to see was actually Jerick McKinnon. Was back. He ended the day with 3 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. Was excited to see him.
Yep.
He even had a few carries for 24 yards. As far as that goal line goes, where he was giving it to Mostert, I probably would have given it to either Jeff Wilson or McKinnon, somebody known for a little bit more of a thumper. Yeah, that game was a little bit too close for comfort for me. Speaking as a fan, I can always blame it on bad calls, bad penalties, but ultimately I'm going to chalk it up to Jimmy's got to be more decisive. Maybe it's as far as the play call.
Yep. You there? You're frozen. You're frozen.
Put him in the back of the end zone, and it didn't.
All right, you're back. Yeah, the only thing I need to add to the Niners is they need Ayuk, they need Debo back, and I think they'll be back in a good shape.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Sunday night game. You got the LA Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys. Rams ended up taking this one surprisingly 20-17.
Yeah, I think the Rams offense looks really good. They just the play calling, I think their line's a little bit better than it was last year, and they were just abusing the Cowboys in the flats and in the running game. So they had their signature, a lot of motion and misdirection. And I think another thing that really helps the Rams is no crowds. Really allows McVay to talk to Goff before every play and help make his audibles and things like that. That was a big thing that they've done in the past. So I think that's just going to keep happening throughout the year because these crowds aren't going to be yelling and causing a lot of ruckus for them. But Malcolm Brown, I think he's clearly the best running back in their backfield. He is pretty impressive. He was just taking advantage of every gap that the Rams opened up for him. And in the passing game, Robert Woods, he's going to be their number one receiver. I know they just extended Cooper Kupp, but Robert Woods, man, he's outperformed him going back to last year, which kind of surprised me because Cooper Kupp seems to be Jared Goff's number one guy. But, yeah, those are the things that I noticed from the Rams offense.
Yeah, definitely. Like you were saying, the crowd noise allowed McVay to be in, Goff's ear quite a bit, and that was good to see. That throw to Van Jefferson from Goff was bucket. That was a beautiful throw.
Yes.
So, but yeah, like you were saying, Robert Woods, definitely a fan. 6 catches for 105 yards. Was impressed and always am impressed by was actually Zeke Elliott.
Zeke Williams.
Zeke Elliott just looked like more physical runner.
Yeah, he looked great.
And maybe that's something as far as him, getting a full training camp this year. Kind of helped out a lot. Tony Pollard even spelled him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
Did you see him get tossed by Aaron Donald?
I did, man. Aaron just he tossed Zeke, and
did.
That was with one arm.
Yep.
That was crazy, man. Like to toss someone like Zeke, who's just like solid muscle, it's pretty crazy.
Yep.
Aaron Donald's a man. Aaron Donald's a beast. Amari Cooper still leads the way with 10 receptions for 81 yards. Then you got CeeDee Lamb for 59, and then Michael Gallup 3 catches for 50 with 1 touchdown call, or 1 completion callback, which I thought was kind of bogus. Good sell job by Jalen Ramsey for sure. And I say this because I had money on the Cowboys. I think they were favored by 1.5. So I took that. I know they're saying, well, Gallup extended it, but if you can see it, you had Ramsey kind of hooking his arm as well.
Yeah, I actually didn't think Ramsey played as elite as he has in the past in this game. You saw him get beat multiple times. Amari Cooper beat him. Gallup beat him a couple times. But, I think he could play better. Of course, Aaron Donald, he looked great, took advantage of the double teams, and they really isolated that rookie playing right tackle for us. And he got embarrassed. That's definitely not going to be on his highlight reel, and he's probably having nightmares about it right now. As for Dak, I thought he looked solid, no turnovers, just leading the team. Zeke, of course, looking powerful. The worst part about the Cowboys was their defensive front. It was just bad. They couldn't really establish a pass rush. they really couldn't stop the rushing game, which really I thought they would improve on that this year, but just didn't seem to be up to par. Gerald McCoy is probably missed right there, as well as Leighton Vander Esch, who left early with a broken collarbone. So maybe if they get those guys, or well, they're not going to get McCoy back. Maybe if they get Vander Esch back, they could sew up some of those holes. But the two guys that impressed me the most on the Cowboys defense was Mr. Aldon Smith. He's back after 5 years and not playing. I mean, dude, he looked powerful. He got a sack. He had a motor. He was didn't look like he took any years off. That's for sure. He might have been the best player on our defense. Other than that, I thought Trayvon Diggs played pretty good. He did give up that one big play to Van Jefferson, but he was in phase. He had his head around. He had his hands up. It was just a perfect pass and a perfect catch for that. But other than that, I thought he played pretty well.
You guys also had lost Jarwin, correct?
Jarwin, yeah, torn ACL. He's out for the season.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the Monday night games. We have 2 Monday night games. The first one we have up is the Steelers versus the New York Football Giants.
Yeah.
Ben is back.
I
thought Ben looked actually pretty solid. I know he was a little bit shaky in the beginning. Something that I saw was, I think it was a blitz. Instead of trying to, move around him and still make that throw, he kind of just, curled up and just took the hit. It was something surprising to see. Benny Snell took over the, carries after Connor got hurt. Juju Smith-Schuster leading the way in receiving. He had 6 catches, 69 yards. Nice for 2 touchdowns.
Perfect. Yeah, Big Ben is back. Giants lose 26-16. I love that Big Ben just had no turnovers, so no real mistakes. And he's out there taking advantage of his weapons. So one thing that kind of came to me is we always say the Steelers are great at drafting wide receivers. Is it that, or is Big Ben just making these receivers look good? Because last year the receiving core is really subpar, and here we go, bounce back Juju, Deontay, the other kid from Oklahoma State. But all these guys were looking pretty good out there, and I think a lot of it has to do with Big Ben being back.
Yeah, James Washington.
Yeah, James Washington.
And even Chase Claypool.
Yep.
Saw that catch. That catch was amazing, man.
Yep, exactly. So
loved it.
So they got some playmakers, and I think they just needed a quarterback to get them the ball out there. One thing about Big Ben that I did notice, this guy can't break tackles like he used to. He's standing back there trying to shake off guys, and it's just it don't work anymore. Remember back in the day, guys would reach their arms out, grab them, try to pull them down. They just couldn't. But, he's getting a little up there in age, and he definitely takes more sacks now. So Juju's back. He's playing back in the slot, which I like a lot. He is running a lot of crossing routes and taking advantage of that mid zone. Big Ben was finding him. Running back wise, James Conner got hurt early, and he didn't really pop up on the injury report. And Benny Snell came in, and I was never really a Benny Snell fan. And then all of a sudden, Benny Snell started playing pretty good. I noticed that he even looks better physically wise. He's a little bit slimmer, faster. I remember him being a little bit more of a big brute type of guy, but he looks like he's in that NFL shape, and a year or two in the NFL really did him well. So he's not quite Saquon Barkley, but he was looking pretty good.
Speaking of Saquon, he had 15 carries for 6 yards.
Yeah, that was brutal for him. This Steelers defense is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, TJ Watt is just a beast. Bud Dupree came out of nowhere. He's beasting. And Cameron Hayward, he just got extended. He looked like a monster. Stephon Tuitt looked great. I mean, man, this Pittsburgh defense is looking like one of the defensive olds. I know Mike Tomlin, who's one of my favorite coaches, is just loving it. Daniel Jones looked very uncomfortable back there. He was always scrambling. The end of the day was 4 rushing 4 rushing attempts for 22 yards. And those were all based off of scrambles. He was sacked 3 times, and he also threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah, can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that athleticism shows a little bit as
Mhm.
far as the scrambling goes, but man, like we were saying, man, that Pittsburgh defense just straight looks nasty. Darius Slayton got his 6 catches for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Barkley caught 6 catches for 60 yards. Other than that, wasn't really excited, especially with Ingram. Ingram had a couple drops.
Yeah, wasn't impressed with Ingram last night.
I can't really say much about this Giants offense. Very, very lackluster. They need to step it up. They're going to be facing some pretty tough defenses here in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. I know Daniel Jones is still learning, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, he did have those interceptions, but his arm looked pretty good to me, as in zip on the ball. I just think he could definitely sling it. He has a live arm. He did have that perfect deep ball throw to Slayton in the game. And Slayton's, I think, their new number 1 receiver. Going back, I think, 6 weeks to last year, he's had a touchdown every game. So even though Saquon got bottled up, Darius Slayton did his thing. And actually, Saquon's biggest play was in the passing game on a quick little screen that he took advantage of, hurdled a guy, and got some yards. So, yeah, the Giants definitely got some work to do. We can't forget to mention T.J. Watt had that interception right at the line of scrimmage that Daniel Jones just shouldn't have thrown. But T.J. Watt always there to take advantage and make a big play.
Yeah. Speaking of defense, I think this next game, the Tennessee Titans versus the Broncos, that was definitely a solid defensive game between both sides.
Was 16-4 Titans.
16-14.
14, yeah. 16-14, yeah.
Yeah, but someone who I'm excited to see out there, it's not Clowney, it's actually Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is looking solid, looking like a first round pick for sure. Glad to see he's fully healthy back out there. Corey Davis actually getting some catches. He ended the day with 7 catches for 101 yards.
Yep.
It looks like the Broncos seem to be kind of eyeing on A.J. Brown quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely making Ryan Tannehill feel a little bit uncomfortable. End of the night with 20. He went 29 for 43, 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was sacked once. But I think the main part of this was, the kicker. The kicker, I have him on one of my fantasy football teams. He ended the night only making 1.
He was horrible.
He was terrible. I just got to say that. He made 1. It was a game winner.
Yeah.
Congrats. But, man.
And they're sticking with him, which is pretty surprising. I thought he'd be done. I just think he was great at the Patriots. He had hip surgery, and I just think his confidence is shot. And for a kicker, that's all that matters is confidence and being able to get it through the upright. And that's 2 things that he failed on Monday night.
Yeah. Going on to the Broncos side, receiving, it looks like Noah Fant leading the way with 5 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. He's looking great.
Yep, he's legit, man. Yards after the catch, a lot of power. Noah Fant, he was pretty impressive on Monday night.
Jared Jeudy, kind of lackluster. He had a couple of drops, which is very uncharacteristic for him.
Yep.
Definitely needs to step it up a little bit, get rid of those cases of drops, and keep going. He had 4 catches for 56 yards. Melvin Gordon was leading the way as far as rushing goes, which is good because he seems to be more of a bell cow than Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay's still getting his carries as well, though. Definitely like to see a little bit more out of both of them. Maybe utilize a little bit more rushing to help out Drew Lock. Drew Lock didn't actually look half bad.
Yep.
22 for 33, 216, and 1 touchdown.
There you go. Yeah. For me, Jerry Jeudy, his most impressive stuff had to do when he didn't have the ball in his hand. He had great change of direction, great releases off the line of scrimmage, and his route running that they mentioned a ton of times was elite. He
he definitely has that part down. It's just the finish with Drew Lock. He needs to get on the same page with him. Running back wise, Philip Lindsay did end up getting hurt. He's dealing with a little bit of turf toe, so hopefully he comes back. But I do like the double team of Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. I think they both looked pretty decent last night. Nothing crazy, but they definitely get the job done. If you just asked me based on last night who the best receiver for Tennessee was, I would definitely say Corey Davis, but I know that's probably not true. I do like Corey Davis, but he's proven in the past that he's not that number one guy. He did have 101 yards, which is something he didn't do all last year. In 16 games, he couldn't pull that off. But A.J. Brown, I think he was just getting that double team, and that's what happens. You got to step up when another guy is just getting double teamed like that and drawing defenders away from you. So as we know, the Titans, their offense just runs through Derrick Henry, and he continued to be dominant once again this week. 34 total touches for 131 rushing yards. I mean, come on, you can't get much more dominant than that. And I don't know if you could do 34 rushes every week. Maybe he can because he's built like a Titan, but hey, like a literal Titan. But Derrick Henry just continues to shine. So we'll see. I do like the Titans. They seem to always play in these close games, but I think they're going to have another playoff push this year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that ends week 1. Tomorrow we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus
Cleveland
Browns. You got 2 0-1 teams. Looks like ESPN has Cleveland by 6 with the over-under at 43.5. And if I was a betting man, I'm definitely going to be betting on the Bengals. And I think that it's actually going to be under 43.5.
There you go. Good luck on your bets. That's about all I have this week, and we'll be back next week, of course, to break down the whole league.
All right. You guys have a good one.
Later.